Hello, everybody, all you fantastic people out there. It's me, Casey Katsaris. I'm back with another installment of BLABBERBUTT, the show where I blabber and have a butt simultaneously. And today I'm asking the question of myself, was I wrong about cancel culture? And the quick answer is no. I think no. But. I do think there's more nuance to explore, and I have learned more about that whole world and of cancel culture, and questioned myself about how do I want to talk about these kinds of things, and reflecting on my own rhetoric, because I'm always questioning myself. I'm of the mind that it is a good thing to do to never assume too much, that you know everything, because no one does. Full disclosure, in terms of relative to all the things that could be known, I know basically nothing. It's the same with you, if assuming you're a human watching this and not some manner of deity. And if you're some manner of deity, maybe, I don't know, you could I just want to put a good word with you, deity, whichever one you are. You probably have some powers. If you throw me a free sandwich or something, I don't know, whatever your powers are. I assume you're the sandwich god. Anyway, but if you're not a deity and you're a human being watching this, well, you don't know anything, because we, as a species, know very little. We know enough to know just how little we know, and yet a lot of people are know-it-alls. And, I want to be confident in my beliefs. I want to be confident in knowing myself and expressing my authentic thoughts without any kind of crippling hesitation. And at the same time, I don't know anything, and I'm a chimp, an ape, bumbling about the world, doing my best, just like everybody. So that up front, that in terms of this ongoing with this series and me commenting on things. What the fuck was that? My light just made a weird noise, but I guess it's fine. But as I go forward and I'm commenting on things, I don't know anything. I mean, I know some things. I do know some things, and I seem to know a lot more about certain important subjects than many Americans do. Yeah. So that's why I'm talking. And a number of reasons, but anyway, I'm getting a bit off track, which is the whole nature of BLABBERBUTT. But anyway, cancel culture. So I made this video about Gina Carano, and I put it up a while ago, and then I was out not too long ago walking my dog, and I ran into a neighbor, a very nice man, who we've had a number of great conversations about things, and he brought up the Gina Carano issue to me in a context of he's also in the entertainment industry like I am, and he felt bad about it. He felt bad for her that she lost her job over that comment, and he was also very quick to say that he had not really looked into the comments or her history of comments in public and all those things. So anyway, it was a very nice little conversation, and I expressed my perspective, and for him, he felt that as a fellow entertainer in the entertainment industry, that his heart broke for her, that she got up to that level of having a role on Star Wars, and then it all fell apart because of this comment. And that landed with me. I'm also in the entertainment industry. I've done a fair amount of acting and writing and all these things, and I totally understand. I mean, it's if you're not in it, it's tough. It can be very tough, and especially acting and building an acting career. And so that really resonated with me when he brought that up. I'm still of the opinion that it's good that Gina Carano is not does not have the platform of being a Star Wars star anymore, for all the reasons. You can watch my other video if you want to get more of that. But the important thing to me was just looking at, talking to this guy. We had a really great conversation, and listened to each other, and he seemed to shift his perspective on it based on what I was sharing. And we ended up talking about some other things too. We talked about the Sharon Osbourne controversy, which I also think was, pretty, not that I think Sharon Osbourne should be fired or locked up, but I do think it was justified that people were upset about her behavior. We talked a little about that. And then he said, I want to see your Gina Carano video, and I sent him a link, and I rewatched a little bit of it, and then I felt kind of bad because at the beginning of the video I was like, oh, if you were concerned about this, you're being insane, your priorities are insane, and that's like probably a little harsh because I realized this guy watched. I don't want this guy to think I think he's insane for being concerned about what happened to Gina Carano. I think the concern is valid. And so it made me question, which I think is good, of what is the most effective rhetoric? Because as far as what I'm trying to do here with doing BLABBERBUTT and speaking my opinions in public and doing my commentary, there are a few things. Number one, just expressing myself for the sake of expressing myself, getting thoughts out of my head and out into the world, where I certainly hope they can be helpful. And secondly, to provide a sense of solidarity to anyone out there who already thinks similarly to me, because that's something that I've gotten out of the whole YouTube world and community is just that sense of, oh, thank God I'm not alone. There are other people who think like this. So I think that is valuable for all of us to put our perspectives out there, just to let other people like us know, hey, we all, we're not alone. And it's okay to do this, to say what you think in public. It can be scary, but it's important to do. And of course, that relates into cancel culture. But, sorry to finish my thought. The third thing is that in terms of doing this, I do want to change minds. I do. I want to change hearts and minds because I think there are a lot of ideas out there in the world today and beliefs and philosophies that are toxic and destructive and not helpful and just not the most functional thing we could do. So I do want to change hearts and minds, and as such, I have to think about my rhetoric and how is what I'm saying landing with people. So that that caused me to question that, and again, rewatching the Gina Carano video, I agree with pretty much everything I said. And if you haven't seen it, the basic conclusion I came to at the end is cancel culture is a problem and not as big of a problem as a lot of people make it out to be. And I still basically think that, but also I've in addition to that conversation with my neighbor friend, I also watched Lindsay Ellis's video on how she was canceled by the Twitter mob, and that definitely shifted my perspective a bit as well too. Just in the sense that I don't think I acknowledged how big of a problem this Twitter mob is, and that I may have downplayed it to serve my argument about Gina Carano specifically. And so I just want to be really clear in that that this cancel culture, and again, the term is, I think a big part of why there's so much confusion around this and ire and conflict is just because no one is really clear with each other on what cancel culture even means or refers to. It's often used in a very broad way to refer to a wide spectrum of incidents and behaviors. And I'm just gonna turn my fucking iPad make sounds. No more sounds from you, iPad. Yes. So where was it? Just completely just throw myself off, destroy my train of thought with a stupid iPad bullshit thing. But yeah, basically to say that yes, that the Twitter mob is now I see is worse than I thought. And part of that is that I'm not a Twitter guy. Obviously I'm aware of Twitter. How could you not be? Since the news treats it so seriously, it never ceases to crack me up reading articles from respected publications where they'll have all these tweets from random people and be referencing them as though, and then one man said this, as if it's like news that one person on Twitter said something. But so Twitter's a big part of the discourse now, and I have a Twitter account. I've written some tweets. But not lately really, and I never really got into it. As you can see with the format I'm doing here. I prefer long form. I'm not really a 140 characters kind of guy. And yes, I know it's more now, but for a long time it was 140, and that's just not generally my wheelhouse. I tend to be verbose, loquacious. I have a lot to say about things, and I do endeavor to be concise and to the point when it matters. And I also think that there's one of the whole issues with Twitter and what we're seeing with cancel culture right now, and a lot of just general misunderstanding between people, is that need for everything to be sound bites and everything to be boiled down and reduced and made digestible. And the issues we're dealing with today, the social problems and the economic problems, the technological problems, like, they're too complicated for tweets. They really fucking are. You're never going to get a comprehensive understanding of any of this stuff just going off of tweets or memes or whatever. And I love memes. I love memes. Memes are great. And I'm all for sharing memes to I think they have a big impact, and they shift perspectives and they can change minds. And inevitably, if you're dealing with something that's like one little info image or one limited tweet, it's going to be reductive. It's just not going to be in depth. It cannot be by its very nature. So that's kind of part of why I always shied away from Twitter. Is it just seems kind of, like, not my thing. And as such, I definitely have an ignorance to how bad it is on there. And seeing Lindsay's video and her breaking all of it down, and if you haven't watched it, it's great. Watch it. And breaking down her experience, it really made it clear to me just how bad this Twitter phenomenon has gotten. And while I don't take anything Lindsay says is absolute gospel, she says in her experience that she was being canceled for racism against completely crazy racism against Asians, supposedly. And she said in her experience that most of the people getting upset with her were white. And so that's another thing. I think in my brain, I kind of assumed that the majority of cancelers on Twitter were at least from the community they were defending. Not all of them, but I thought probably most. And I thought it was more a situation of legitimately exploited, abused people lashing out in a way that was extreme and excessive. And I'm sure every case is different, and the makeup and the demographic of who's doing the canceling shifts and changes. And if at any point the group of people on Twitter and they're trying to cancel somebody and they're saying, hey, you're a racist against black people, and the majority of the people doing it aren't black, there's definitely, I think, something to question there. And a lot there in general in that world for us on the lefty side of things to question about, that a lot of things that lefties push for are not supported in any kind of majority by the groups they're supposedly defending. Like majority of black people don't support defunding the police. I still do. Majority of Latin people don't like the term Latinx or don't identify with it, and I agree with them. I'm like, the whole point of doing a term like that is to be more inclusive, right? So if the majority of the people from that group don't even like it, doesn't seem worth it. So there's a lot of this stuff that I think we really, those of us who are lefties and on the left, we have to look at that stuff, and we have to consider those things and take responsibility for if we're going to take a position that runs counter to the group that we're supposedly trying to help. And it's not as simple as, oh, my alarm's going off. Can you believe that? Okay, I'm going to have to cut this out. Okay, and we're back. And I had to go tell my Alexa to shut up. Then I'm back now. So, so anyway, leftists, there's a lot of nuance here to look at. And so the main point I want to make is that cancel culture, I think, was worse than I was giving it credit for. And just want to be really clear of, like, you're not, all the people out there who do the Twitter canceling and beyond, you're not helping anything. You're really not. If you're someone from an actual oppressed, exploited group and you saw something on Twitter that was triggering for you and upsetting, and you lash out at that person, I get it. I want to be empathetic to everybody, so I get it, and it's really not going to help anything. And the worst thing about it is that you're making right-wingers correct. Don't do that. Don't give them more ammo to push, because that's where my last video was coming from, is I was really responding to the right wing and how they make this whole thing of cancel culture about, like, Mr. Potato Head becoming Potato Head, and Dr. Seuss's estate choosing to stop publishing a few books. Like, these are travesties. So really, that's the kind of cancel culture that I think is bullshit as a threat. Mr. Potato Head becoming Potato Head is not an issue to anything. It doesn't fucking matter. Fuck it. Who fucking gives a shit? Only right-wingers looking for something to be upset about. Or looking for something as a, issue to manipulate other people, to get them upset, to make themselves rich. So I still think all of that's very absurd. And at the same time, I see that, and just with the Lindsay Ellis example in specific, like that really, it's so stupid. Like, what she got, it's one thing for, like, when someone says something that's legitimately a little like, or maybe like full on racist, obviously, and to go like, hey, what the fuck? And like, there's a way to call people out without completely vilifying them, or doxing them, or telling them to kill themselves, or any of the horrible fucking shit that goes on. But when it with Lindsay, she didn't even say, what she said was not even remotely racist, not even a little bit. She was speaking to story tropes and story structures, and not to race at all. And to take what she wrote and say it's racist is like the most ridiculous bad faith. That's just terrible. It's bad. I want to publicly condemn it. That's terrible, that kind of shit. And on the flip side, if you're calling out Harvey Weinstein for being a serial rapist, great. That's great. And like, pretty hard to go too far when you're talking shit on Harvey Weinstein on social media. So there's a range, there's a spectrum to all these things. And also I want to say, to speak a little more to what my neighbor brought up about Gina Carano, of like, I feel that I do feel that. I'm also an actor, and it's a hard biz. It can be, anyway, very hard. And that it my issue, as I said in the last video, is that I feel Gina Carano crossed the line into being a right-wing propagandist, whether she meant to or not. And she might totally believe everything she's saying in public, and it doesn't change the fact that it's very damaging. And like, I didn't talk that much about her transphobic stuff, but if anyone who doesn't know about that, basically a trans group asked her if she could put her pronouns in her Twitter bio to show solidarity to the trans community. And I think it's important to think about the fact that, like, she could have done anything in response to this. She could have said nothing. It might have not been the best optics. Some people might have tried to call her and like say, hey, they asked you to do it and you didn't respond to them. But I don't think that story ever would have been enough to be cancel worthy or catch, mass attention. So she could have just said nothing. She could have responded and said, like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. And, I'm not really comfortable, like, putting that in my particular bio. And, and I support you and whatever. Like, she could have given some diplomatic response explaining why she was not going to do it, or no explanation. But what she did choose to do was to write, I don't remember, I think it was bleep, bloop, blorp, as her pronouns in her Twitter bio. And the thing about that is, that's bullying. Like, it's so frustrating to me to see right-wingers constantly playing the victim and saying, like, oh, why are people being so mean to me? And no, the one true opinion and freedom of speech is dead and all this shit. And it's like, you're the jerk. You're being the jerk first. People from the trans community asking if you would be willing to put your pronouns in your bio is not bullying by any fucking rational definition. It's not. It's a request. And I do think that when that request is made, that Gina Carano had the right to say, no to that request if she wanted. And saying no is very different from putting a mockery, mocking the people who asked you, who, as far as I know, kindly asked, hey, could you put the and then to put bleep bloop blorp. It's just so mocking and dismissive. And not that I have a general issue with mockery or lampooning, because I don't at all. I love it. I do it myself. And I do think we need to ask the questions of who are the targets of our mockery, and are we punching up or are we punching down? These are all good questions to look at, and to do that to the trans community. If you're not aware, trans kids and people are committing suicide at obscene, horrifying rates, and there's tons of science and studies to show that the reason, despite what fuckheads like Ben Shapiro say, who's now buddies with Gina Carano, these trans people are not killing themselves because transness is some debilitating mental illness. It's entirely because society refuses to accept them. That's it. That's like that. They've done studies. They've tracked all this stuff. People much more experts in these fields who know much more than I do. You can look at their studies, you can dig through the data, and they have concluded that it's because of social factors. It's because their families don't support them, and society doesn't support them. And not only doesn't support them, but then fucking heaps mockery and scorn and ostracization on them. And so it's just like, Gina, Gina, I know you watch all my videos. Gina, if you ever see this, you were being mean to you were bullying people. And I get it if you don't get that. And you were bullying people who are already at risk, who are already treated terribly by society and dying en masse. Just there was no need for that. And that's just one example in a long reign of just her right-wing bullshit. So I'm not, I still condemn the things Gina said in public. I still think there's super dangerous, shitty stuff to say that enables and empowers and validates white supremacists and white nationalists and Nazis and KKK and all those fucking fuckers. So yeah, it's just, I condemn that behavior, and I condemn the behavior of the Twitter mob. And to be really honest about it all, I'm afraid of canceling. Like this is something else I reflected on and asked myself a lot about, is like, yeah, like I'm afraid I could get canceled for saying lefty things in public, in terms of my pursuit of my career and being a professional artist. It's scary. And I think Lindsay Ellis pointed to this in a really great way. She was speaking to like the beast that is not named, and that we're all kind of operating under this fear of like, what if I say the wrong thing in public and it'll get me in trouble? And on the one hand, it's like, yes, I do think we all have a responsibility to be considerate with our language in terms of the impact it can have. It's what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm all for considering our word choice and considering how we may have been, conditioned by culture and whatever else to speak about things in a way that is, might be racist or sexist or transphobic or whatever. And at the same time, I think we need to feel safe in terms of safe spaces. We need to feel safe to express ourselves in public. And, there's a popular phrase right now of like, make racists afraid again. And I agree with it to an extent of like, I get it, like racists in hiding are better than racists out in the street fucking beating people up and driving their cars over people and shit. So that's good. And, putting racists into hiding, I think, is a Band-Aid. The real goal, I think, is we want these ideologies quite completely stripped from all people. Like when it comes to a horribly racist person, a KKK member, a Nazi, to me, the best case scenario is that they stop being a Nazi. The best thing that could happen with any given Nazi is that they have an epiphany and they stop being a Nazi and they devote the rest of their life to doing helpful, constructive things for people. That's the best. Humans are a resource. And the best case scenario is that every human who's currently holding shitty, stupid beliefs in their head lets them go and becomes a contributive, happy member of society. That is better for everybody than like a Nazi being executed. It really is. Though I totally understand if you're Jewish or a person of color and you want Nazis to be executed, I get it. And I'm never going to be like, what a jerk you are. No, of course. And I don't think it's the real long-term solution. So yeah, I think that's most of what I had to say following up on cancel culture. And just to speak a little bit about moving forward and with this channel and these videos, I can't promise to be right about anything ever. I can't promise to be totally accurate with all my facts every time. I will make mistakes. I made a mistake. This is one other thing I wanted to say about Gina Carano video. In that, I totally just I made assumptions about the production team on The Mandalorian, and I do think probably most of them are liberal or leftist, and certainly there is hard evidence of like Pedro Pascal, his comments in public. I also said in that video, I said that Jon Favreau was like a liberal guy, and that was just based on like I felt like I'd seen him at like Democrat fundraisers and shit like that. It was just like a vague knowing. It was totally wrong. I was incorrect. Jon Favreau is not a publicly liberal guy, and I did more research, and he's apparently generally pretty publicly apolitical. And like I should have guessed that with putting Elon Musk in Iron Man 2 is maybe not the most liberal guy. So Jon Favreau, who I know also watches all my videos. Sorry, that was my mistake. I misrepresented you, and I don't want to do that. I want to, hold myself accountable and fact check myself and question all my assertions endlessly, because I think we all should. And if our assertions are of quality and based in fact and concrete reasoning, well, they will stand up to endless questioning. That's the cool thing about facts. So question yourself, consider those things, and yeah, I can't, I'm gonna always do my best to speak as accurately as possible. All I can promise is to be honest. I think the only promise any of us can make. If you promise to never make a mistake, well, get ready to break that promise real fucking quick, because we're human and we're fallible, and you're gonna make mistakes, and I'm gonna make mistakes. So yes, this is just a little video to kind of cover that and share my further reflections and nuance, and yeah, and I just if you're a right winger, I've talked a lot of shit about right wingers, and I'll probably talk more shit about right wingers, but really I want to be clear that for me the issue with right wingness is it's the ideology, it's not the people. These systems are guilty, not the individuals, and well, I do think individuals have to be held accountable in certain situations for anything to function. I also think, I'm fully for forgiveness, and I'm fully for people changing their minds. That's another thing, is I watched a few discussions like recently with between disagreeing people and right wing, left wing, and I actually encountered a couple right wing like YouTube, not like big pundits, but lower level people who I still disagree with their fundamental beliefs, but they were actually seemed to me to be there to have a good faith conversation. So I really believe very strongly, fundamentally, that conversations are our salvation, that conversations are what can keep the human race from completely self-destructing, or maybe we'll just self-destruct, and there's only so much any of us can do about that, and I want to do whatever I can, and so I want to be able to have conversations with right-wingers. I'd love to eventually have on this show, like back and forth and interviews and maybe even roundtables. So I don't want to come off like I'm just like, fuck you, fuck every right winger, fuck every Republican forever. Though I do sometimes feel that way, and I want to be real with you about that, Republicans. I don't want to be some wishy-washy liberal, just like, oh, I can see where you're coming from, and we might always agree. Like, I'm not going to do that. I think conservatism as an ideology is a plague on the earth, period. And my goal is for all humans to abandon that, what I think is toxic thinking. Not for the people who currently have that toxic thinking to be horribly punished and tortured and ostracized for what they believe, because I don't think that's a real solution. So yeah, hope you have a great day. We're all fallible. Question yourself, and at the same time, believe in yourself, and endeavor to know yourself in such a way that you can speak publicly and freely and make mistakes and acknowledge your mistakes and self-correct. So yeah, that's it. I love you. I'll see you next time on Blabberbutt. Bye, 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 bye.